Senator Paul, I know you've said that you don't think the debt ceiling increase is that big of a deal, but the more you listen to people, the more you read to economists, read what economists have to say, do you think it's worth the risk not to raise the debt ceiling?
I think it's not a good idea to go through the debt ceiling deadline. I think we should go ahead and have an agreement in advance. That being said, though, I think it's also irresponsible for the president, who, when he was a senator, actually voted not to raise the debt ceiling. It's irresponsible for him to scare people. He should be the opposite. The leader of the country should be soothing the markets and saying, we will always pay the interest on our debt, and we do have plenty of revenue. We bring in $250 billion a month, and we have $20 billion in interest payment. There's absolutely no reason ever to default, and a good leader would be saying, we will never default.
Would a good senator be saying we will never default?
Absolutely, and I'm trying to be that. We should never default. We should never miss a payment, but people have to realize that not raising the debt ceiling means you have to balance your budget. It doesn't mean you default, and people are conflating these two, and they're not the same thing.
So your best calculation, do you think there are enough Republicans in the Senate to join with Democrats to pass an increase in the debt ceiling? What if it came down to the wire and the only thing available was a clean debt ceiling increase, nothing on it, just increase the debt ceiling?
You know, I think at this point, you know, we had a vote on yesterday, and it was to just raise it without any restrictions. And we all voted solidly against raising it without limit and without restrictions. That's what the Democrats offered us yesterday. No limit over the next year, year and a half. We raise it as high as it goes, no limits. The American people don't want that. The vast majority of the people are afraid of what this huge growth in our deficit is going to do to us. And so, no, I think we have to restrain. And there are two problems, and they're both problems. It is a problem for the marketplace to see us go through a deadline. But in 2011, when we were downgraded because of the burden of how big our debt was, not because of getting close to a deadline. The S&P said we did not do enough to cut spending and not enough to act fiscally responsible. That's why we were downgraded. It can happen again if we don't wake up and do something to manage this debt.
I want to play you a little bit of a conversation that you had with Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader on the Senate side, that was caught by cameras, and then ask you a question on the other side.
Oh, Candy, that was private. You wouldn't play a private conversation on TV, would you?
No, but I sure wouldn't talk when I had a mic on, so let me play this for you. Hang on.
I think if we keep saying we wanted to defund it, we fought for that, but now we're willing to compromise on this, I think they can't. We're going to win. I think, well, I know we don't want to be here, but we're going to win this, I think.
You still think you're going to win this, and what does winning this look like?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that conversation is I was on CNN about 3 minutes before that, and I said exactly the same thing on television. Not exactly in the same words, but pretty close. I've been saying all along we don't want to be here. We don't want to be in a shutdown. Right. I was against shutting down, and it is a failure of conversation to be in a shutdown. And what I mean by winning this is not that I think it's a political battle, but that I think it is untenable for the president to say he won't negotiate. And he still repeated that when we were in the White House the other day. He is talking to us, which I think is negotiation, but he's also saying, I will not pay for a raising of the debt ceiling. The American people I have to get this without any conditions, which is sort of him saying unconditional surrender, which is not negotiation. So really, in 2011, we added the sequester. That was a good thing. We need to add more controls and restraint to government spending, and this is precisely the time to do it. He's unlikely to negotiate when he doesn't have a deadline. Democrats saying, we used to want a clean CR, but we think you're squirming, so now we want to raise spending and break the budget caps. So I think we're seeing that the Senate Democrats are getting greedy about this whole thing.
Do you see yourself at any point in the future being anything other than politically a member of the Republican Party?
You mean you're implying a third party or some other party?
Or if you wanted to become a Democrat, there's lots of sort of parties out there. I just wonder if you see yourself being anything other than a Republican.
No, I've always been a Republican, and I'm one of those people who actually is a real lover of the history of the Republican Party from the days of abolition through the days of civil rights. Republican Party has a really rich history. In our state, I'm really proud of the fact that the ones who overturned Jim Crow in Kentucky were Republicans fighting against an entirely unified Democrat Party. So I am proud to be a Republican. Can't imagine being anything else.
And last question, you know this if you want. A lot of people have referred to Senator Ted Cruz as the de facto head of the Republican Party. Do you agree?
I think that he's done a good job drawing attention to Obamacare, and that Obamacare is something that is going to be damaging to people. And for that, I think he's done a great service in bringing attention to, I think, something that's really going to be bad for a lot of Americans.
But you don't necessarily see him as the de facto head of the Republican Party.
Well, you got 46 of us, and we all have a little bit of ego, so I think most of us kind of think, oh, we're one of the leaders. I don't think there is. You know, we have official leader. We have official leadership, but I don't think any of us are ready to say, oh, my fellow senator, he's my leader, and I follow him off the edge of the cliff. There is no one leader other than our official leadership that we have.